Now, NDE Radio, a weekly exploration of near-death experiences and similar encounters with the other side. Now, here's your host, Lee Witting.
Welcome to NDE Radio with Lee Witting. Whether you're listening on TalkZone, by podcast, through the archives of our ad-free shows on our YouTube channel, or connected through our Facebook page. One of the recurring discussions I run into from time to time is whether or not Raymond Moody's term near-death experience is the best way to describe an out-of-body, spiritually transformative, mystical experience. Long ago, I decided that it was, because you don't have to die, or even come close to physically dying, to have an NDE. The defining thing is to get close enough to a vision of dying to show you what death will bring. On a recent show, for example, I told the story of an NDE a woman experienced during meditation. Today's NDE, which Yvonne Sneeden experienced, resulted from a profound loss of life force energy, which, she said, made her feel like her organs were shutting down. The best measure of an NDE is not so much what brings it on, as to how it changes the experiencer's perspective. No matter how and when it happens, it still remains a life-changing gift from God. In Yvonne's case, her perspective on life and how to live it changed dramatically. Recently, an adventurous listener delved into our YouTube archives and wrote to remind me of what an amazing NDE report Yvonne Sneeden had given to NDE Radio. The listener called it, quote, one of the most beautiful and powerful NDEs I have ever heard. Beautiful and so detailed. And gave it 3 hearts. So I thought this might be a good time for its encore presentation after more than 10 years. I began by asking Yvonne to tell us about her background.
My name is Yvonne Sneeden, as you said, and I'm French from Europe, and I grew up in Belgium, lived a few years in France, and when I was over there, I worked, as far as my career goes, in diplomacy, in a consulate, in an embassy, and later on a Scandinavian lobby for the European Union. And then I moved to the US about 11 years ago. In parallel to my professional career, I devoted most of my time to Christianity, to a church. Actually, I was very active prior to that, yes.
Mm-hmm. What denomination of church was it?
It was a non-denominational church, which means that they try to not be categorized in one category of denominations. At the end, it became a denomination as well, a non-denominational church. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
It has become a denomination.
Yes.
And was this in Belgium?
Yes. First in Belgium, and then I went to France for seminary. I took some sabbatical years at work at the embassy, and then I went for a solid year to just learn more about theology. And then I came back to Belgium, and that was it.
Now, how old were you when you had your near-death experience?
Well, it was in 2008.
That's all you need to say. We won't ask you more than that.
Thank you. And about 5 years ago, and actually it was here in the US.
And tell us about it. Tell us what happened.
Okay. As I said, I was very involved in church and a very strong believer in God already. But my life, shifting from Europe and here, I had many traumatic, emotionally traumatic events in my life. And they were adding one after the other. And in 2008, it's actually probably all I could bear, maybe, as emotionally in my life. I wouldn't go here through the video, but there were some traumatic events that you have in one lifetime. I had 4 or 5 different people, so it was quite heavy, even if it doesn't look like that. And so my life, I felt at some point in my life that I was reaching, I was not suicidal, but I felt I was reaching the end of my energy of life. And it's very difficult to explain that to somebody because they think, well, you were suicidal, you were depressed. No, it was really the energy we have to live that's actually implanted in us. That was completely depleted. And I called my sister a week before the event, and I said to my sister, I think I'm dying. I can feel I am dying. I can feel it's going to happen soon. And a week later, I was in my house, laying on the sofa, not feeling well. And out of a sudden, I started to feel every organs of my body shutting down, one by one. And then while it was doing that, I was getting out of my body. So I didn't feel the physical pain of it. One moment I was on my bed, on the sofa. One moment I was there. The other moment I was in heaven. I didn't go through a tunnel. I didn't go through a light from a distance. I was immediately transplanted in the light, as you can see. And it's like when you're driving in the fog, in a very foggy morning, and you cannot see anything around you, and you feel that fog all around you. That's how the light was. There was no end, no beginning, but it was all made of light instead of fog. So that's how I was translated in that.
Did you see any other people or spirits? Or were you by yourself?
I was completely by myself. And that light actually was, I was in a state of effervescence. I felt myself in a pure joy, happiness, worry-free completely. And just in that state of well-being, imagine all the negative I have in me was completely gone, and it was just a fullness of peace and joy, and I was on my own. When suddenly from a distance, I saw something.
And what did you see?
Do you want me to tell you?
Of course.
So I am in that light, and suddenly coming towards me, I see an energy coming towards me. Just imagine a flame of fire, or that's how I explain it in general. You imagine a flame of fire that actually move around like that, but instead of fire, it's energy of light. Imagine that energy. And on top of the energy, there was a type of face. But I knew it was Jesus. And some people ask me, well, how did you know it? Maybe it was your mind you were thinking. And the beautiful thing in heaven is that there is no space for doubts, which is kind of a stressful emotion. There is no stressful emotion in heaven. It was downloaded to me. I knew it was a knowing. This is Jesus. And he came towards me, whirling like that around. And then he just engulfed me with his body, which was made of energy. And he just totally engulfed me. And at the same time, I felt him in me. And at that moment, I felt the love of a father and a mother blend in one. It was not a he, it was not a she. It was one. And it makes me think that on earth, love has been kind of divided into the male type of love and female type of love. So maybe we can experience those two different love. But in heaven, and it seems like Jesus had blended them both. So he wasn't a he or she, he had both together, like the ideal parents. Like the love you have for the ideal parents, the ones that have not hurt you or traumatized you, really the perfect ideal parents. Yes. And when he engulfed me like that, oh yes, and he kissed my face. like a mother would kiss her newborn baby. You know, you have so much love for your newborn baby that you've kissed the whole face. And you go, and he kissed my whole face. And I don't want to be doing any sacrilege here, but he even kissed my lips in a very pure way, like a mother kissed the whole face of the baby everywhere like that. And I think I experienced that because I didn't grow up with my parents. So maybe he wanted to make sure I get the love of the parents, the ideal parents. And that was beautiful. And I felt loved. I felt, for the first time in my life, I felt I was with my parents and they were loving me and they were caring for me. And like a child who is 4 years old and the parents, you're on your parents' laps and you feel like nothing can happen to you because they are holding you. No one can harm you because you are theirs. And that's what I felt with Jesus. I was his. In a way, not in a possessive way, but in a way like a loving, protective way. I'm here for you.
Did you sense that he was speaking or communicating any thoughts to you?
Yes, and I'm glad you're bringing that, Lee, because in heaven or on the other side, I like to say, some people say on the other side when you're dead. I like to say heaven because it's generally what people use. So it will define, everyone can relate to it when we say heaven, even people that have never experienced an NDE. If we say heaven, they can just project a location and it's easier. So in heaven, and it gives a good feeling when you think of heaven, more than on the other side. And so in heaven, we are not communicating with the mouth, it's from thought to thought, and I would say it more than thought to thought. It's from knowing to knowing. It's from heart to heart. It's the impression and the emotion that is actually imprinted in you from the other person, and you understand immediately 100% what the person means. So that's how we were communicating. You would say the word that we can relate to is telepathy. We were communicating telepathically.
So what did you learn?
What I learned about when I was there and just was all this, how it is in heaven. What is my heaven? Heaven, I know that heaven is so vast that there are many, many locations. And there is one scripture where Jesus says, there are many mansions in my Father's house. So there are many places. Where I went, it made me realize that when we are not here, the life we have after, the place we actually call home, with a capital H, is a place of tremendous love, tremendous compassion, tremendous understanding, and forgiveness. I mean, not even forgiveness, because the forgiveness is implied that you have done something wrong. It's just an unconditional love. I felt that, and I experienced it myself, in the sense that when I arrived there, I was completely exhausted emotionally, psychologically, and physically from the life I was leading here. And at some point, I said to Jesus that I was very tired and exhausted of my life on earth, because the majority of people, I'll say the way I felt it, that it's a world, I would say that it's a world where many people are mean, selfish, self-centered. And I said to Jesus, I don't want to go back to that world where people are mean, selfish, and self-centered. I want to stay here, because what I was learning there was that there is another dimension, an awakening where actually love can be lived and can be experienced. And that was one of the learning of my experience there at that moment with Jesus.
Was that something that he communicated to you, or was it something that you observed while you were there?
I observed while I was there, Lee, because, Jesus, the fact that he touched you, as soon as I was in the light, it's not even when Jesus was with me, as soon as I was in the light permeated love. That's actually the ingredient of heaven. There is every single thing is love. So, and Jesus is even more love, and maybe there are other, beings over there even are full of love that actually emanated from the creator of all. That's how I call him, because I don't want to give a name it's a creator of all. That's how I call it. And I met angels, I saw some angels.
Okay, that's what I was, yes, whether you had seen actually other beings and perhaps an environment. Sometimes we hear of fields or beautiful gardens or a city or as you said, many mansions. Was there something along those lines that you witnessed?
So yes, some of them. I was walking with Jesus. He was taking me, after I said I'm tired of this world, he actually filled me. He said, I will fill you with the energy of life. And he filled me with a tremendous energy, like when you see on the medical documentary, when you see a skeleton and then a liquid which is instilled to explain how that product worked better than the other. That's how I felt. I felt that energy flowing into me, into the extreme gene of my being, the proton, everything I was completely filled with that energy of life. It was amazing. And at that point, Jesus just took me towards a city. He was walking to my left. He was about 5'10", walking to my left. The Jesus we portray, he had his robe. And I'm saying that for the listener that were wondering. And we were walking towards a magnificent city. And I saw from a distance a lot of buildings, but they were made of crystal. They were so brilliant, they were so shining and so glowing that they were looking like they were made of crystal. And the sky was extremely blue, but there was no sun. It was just permeating light, because in heaven everything is light. There is no darkness, there is no night. Imagine a world where everything is always brilliant and glowing of light, and that's what I saw. And I was walking with Jesus towards that direction, and suddenly I feel like somebody's coming to my right. And I turned around, and I saw dozens of children angels. And they were dressed in white robe. They had silverish type of hair, wavy mid-hair. And they were, the color was bronze. It's like a mix of all the color and race we have here on Earth. It was like the mix of everything. And that was their color. It was amazingly beautiful. And they were walking towards that city. We were all going there. And one of them looked at me, and it was like it was very normal I was there. And then he turns and looked at Jesus, and his face shone. And all the other little young angels ran into his arms. And he took them all like that in his arms with a tremendous love. And telepathically he said to them, it's Yvonne's time. Like he was taking care of me right at that moment with a lot of love and no rejection feeling. With a lot of love, he said, it's Yvonne's time. And he said, go back to your teachers. And then so the angels left, and I turned around to look at where they were going, and there were, and I will say that was my experience, there were the most beautiful women angels waiting there with long white robe, and I knew they were angels. I could see the feature of what you think of an angel with small, tiny wings. And they were magnificent, glowing of lights. Imagine a body which is the skin, and instead of muscles and blood inside and nerves, it's all pure lights. And they were glowing like that and looking at me with love, acceptance, unity, respect, dignity, veneration, not in the putting me in a high pedestal. I think it was more, that's how we treat one another in heaven. We treat each other with respect, with consideration. And that's how they were smiling and loving me and saying, you're one of us. And it was the feeling I got is, they will never harm me. They will never one single moment hurt me. That's the love that they were reflecting on me. The pure love. And it was amazing. And we were all going towards that amazing city.
Did you get to the city?
Well, we were walking there, and I enter it, and then, that's another thing about NDEs, NDE experiencers. Sometimes some of your experience the memory is blocked because they don't want you, because of the fact that sometimes you cannot know the experience you had in heaven. Otherwise, you will not come back on earth, or on earth, you will not want to live. You want to go back. Yes. So he knew I didn't want to come back. Jesus knew that I didn't want to come back. So I have a feeling I experienced some things there, but I cannot remember. And right after that, that's when Jesus told me he loves humanity. He loves every one of us. He said, Yvonne, I love everybody. So the scene, it's difficult to explain in human words, because when you're in that other dimension, time, it's not the same as here. You can live 1 minute here and the same amount, and when you're on the other side or in heaven, you can live 3 months and it's 1 minute here, because it's a different notion of time. So, and sometimes the sequence are not necessarily a logic continuation. It's all what's important for you to learn that's actually popping in. Like at some point, Jesus showed me something about my personal life, and a screen appeared, and he explained to me things about that. So imagine holograms, but solid ones, appearing, and that's how it felt. And when Jesus said, and I don't want to emphasize, I know that other people have not seen Jesus, they have seen the being of light, but Jesus is the being of light, the being of light, it's the same. He's the light of the Creator, to me, according to my experience. And he said to me, Yvonne, I love my babies. And when he meant my babies, he said it after, he said, I love humanity. I love humanity. I love my babies, he said. And it means every one of us, regardless of where we come from, our life, our gender, our race, anything happen in our life, she love everybody completely and perfectly. And I said, oh yeah, I know you. You were Jesus, you came on earth to teach love. So no wonder, that's what I kind of was thinking. And then he said to me, I'll show you how. And when he said that, he took my heart, and then he put my heart in his heart. And we became one. And it was a complete oneness, it's actually a merge. We merged together as one. And for a few minutes, I could actually feel each emotion Jesus had for humanity. And Lee, that's the moment where I cannot express that with human words. It's way beyond any vocabulary we have. Imagine billions and billions of waves of compassion and love and forgiveness and kindness and goodness and light and purity. Waves just going and for us and carrying us through, lifting us through. It's difficult to explain that that one experience, it was just beyond this world, we can say it. And it was just, there is one other scripture that says, there's a prayer Jesus said when he was on earth. He said, God, let us be one like you and I are one. And let them be one with me like you and I are one. And that is exactly what I felt and experienced.
What a gift. And then how did you come to be back in your body?
Right after that incredibly magnificent experience, which is life-transforming, right after that, I had a knowing that it was it. It was time to come back. That's all what Jesus wanted to communicate with me. And when I had that realization, it's time to go back, I just came back as naturally. And sometimes I can imagine for people that never had any other experience, how sometimes they wonder how that's possible. But there is no pain. To me, there was no pain. It was like you re-enter your body, and suddenly you're back in your body. And here you are, and it's like you were home, and suddenly you're in another home, temporarily. Yes. It was just amazing. And the message I have, it's love, it's compassion. That's what I learned. It's the dimension, the degree of love that we can achieve even on earth. That if we let ourselves go, and if I know that since childhood, we have all been trained on earth to believe in certain pattern of life, and we're all following that pattern that we have decided is the reality. And I feel, Lee, that we went from trauma to trauma, because every one of us started with that purity of heaven, that pure love, that pure light that I experienced in heaven, and we all started with it. But as life goes on, everyone has been hurt, everyone has been rejected, everyone has hurt. So with the years that goes on, we have kind of built some stronghold around us, and we have decided to just kind of to give love to a certain measure. And having a near-death experience is actually breaking those strongholds and letting the flow of love, like a spring, just flow out again. And if there I have a message, is that it's possible. It's possible to live that and to open up again for anyone who listens or has been hurt in life. That's who we really are. We are love. We are beings of love.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience.
My thanks again to Yvonne Sneeden. If you'd like to hear this show again, or any of our more than 500 archived ad-free NDE interviews, go to TalkZone's NDE Radio site and hit the Past Shows button, or go to our YouTube channel, NDE Radio with Lee Witting, where you can subscribe to and comment on the complete NDE Radio library. And be sure to check out our NDE Radio Facebook page. Just search NDE Radio with Lee Witting on your Facebook app. And listen next Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern at TalkZone for more NDE Radio. I'm your host, Lee Witting, saying thanks for listening.